In 2016, Eddie Griffin said, if Trump wins, I'm moving to Africa. Apparently very slowly, because in Trump's 4 years, he only got as far as Van Nuys. George Lopez once said that if Trump won, he won't have to worry about immigration. We'll all go back. George Lopez, still here. And it doesn't look like the migrant traffic is going back. Gosh, it almost seems like the world is full of suffering, intolerance, and oppression on a scale we can't imagine. But that can't be true, because if it was, we'd be protesting it. It must only happen in Israel. And if, for your exile, you do wind up in some comparatively luxurious place like Canada or Japan or the UK, not that they want you, at best, you'll be trading a bunch of stuff you hate about this country for a bunch of stuff you'll soon hate about your new home.
Bill Maher has once again gone after woke Hollywood and political elites. This time, the double standards are hard to miss. For years, celebrities and left-leaning figures loudly promised to leave America if Trump came back to power. They said it with confidence. They said it like they truly meant it. But now that the moment has passed, what actually happened? Almost nothing. They are still here, still speaking, still enjoying the same country they call unbearable. And when Maher stepped in, this no longer felt like political frustration and started looking like a harsh call-out of fake outrage. So if you want the full breakdown, let's get into it.
If you run for office in America, you have to want to live here. I bring this up because there was a video that made the rounds recently by a woman who said she was a proud progressive and was running for state representative in New Hampshire, and yet posted this.
Is there a place we can move that people would be happy to have us, that we're not gentrifying or colonizing? I don't want to be a problem, but I need to get the out of this country.
The out of this country? The one you want to be elected to a leadership position in? What was your campaign slogan? America, a shining shithole on a hill?
Maher's main point is simple, but it hits strong. If you want to run for office in America, you should want to live in America. That should be obvious, but somehow today it is not. Because again and again, people on the left describe this country as a failure while still asking for more power inside it. And that is where the contradiction becomes clear. On one side, they say America is broken, tired, and beyond fixing. On the other side, they still want status, influence, respect, and control from being part of its system. That is not bravery. That is inconsistency dressed as belief.
Now, does America have big problems? Yes, I've often cited the America list. Things like being 54th in the world in infant mortality behind Cuba, 19th in literacy behind Russia, 72nd in female representation in government behind Iraq. A lot of work to do here. And is it possible for a country to lose itself so much that leaving it is justified? Yes, but we're not there yet, not by a long shot, and we don't need quitters. We need people who will stay and fix it. Maybe the problem isn't that America isn't worth defending. Maybe the problem is that lots of people today are entitled whiners who have no perspective and no idea how good they have it.
And Maher does not hold back. He directly targets the mindset behind it. In his opinion, the issue is not that America cannot be criticized. Of course it has flaws. Everyone serious understands that. The real issue is that many public figures now act like perspective does not matter. They talk as if America is uniquely terrible, uniquely unfair, uniquely hopeless. But that idea falls apart when you compare it to how most of the world actually lives. And that is what makes this talk so misleading. It is not balanced. It is exaggerated. It takes real problems, blows them up, and then presents that version as reality.
59% of self-identified liberals say there have been times when they considered leaving America for good, like after NBC canceled The West Wing. I don't get it. You want so badly for every immigrant to come to this country and experience the good life, but somehow it's so terrible you want to leave?
Then come the celebrities, which makes things even more ridiculous. Because if there is one pattern people have noticed, it is this. A Republican wins, a celebrity reacts emotionally and suddenly promises to leave the country forever. We heard it from Miley Cyrus. We heard it from Eddie Griffin. We heard it from George Lopez. Big statements, big emotions, big headlines. That is what Maher makes fun of so well, because once the attention fades and the outrage cools down, nothing actually happens. The big exit never takes place. And that turns it from a serious political stance into pure performance.
Just like there's a long list of liberal celebrities who swear they'll go if a Republican is elected, and no one ever does. Miley Cyrus once said, "I am moving if Trump is my president. I don't say things I don't mean." Here she is looking miserable, having to endure America at the Grammys last Sunday.
According to critics like Maher, that is because many celebrities never plan to leave. The goal was to show loyalty, to prove they were on the right side of the culture war. That is why their outrage often feels selective. Under democratic leadership, there can be problems, economic struggles, global issues, and loss of trust. Yet many celebrity voices stay quiet. But when Trump or Republicans show up, the language suddenly becomes extreme. Now everything is called authoritarian. Everything is labeled fascism. Everything is framed as the end of democracy. And when reactions change that much depending on who is in charge, people stop hearing values. They hear bias.
I guess she flew back from Tajikistan. In 2016, Eddie Griffin said, "If Trump wins, I'm moving to Africa." Apparently very slowly, because in Trump's 4 years, he only got as far as Van Nuys. George Lopez once said that if Trump won, he won't have to worry about immigration. We'll all go back. George Lopez still here. And it doesn't look like the migrant traffic is going back.
Maher also points out something else worth noticing. This strange talk about escaping America, that word alone shows how unserious much of this is. Escaping from what exactly? This is not North Korea. This is not a system locking people in. If someone truly wants to leave the United States, they are free to try. They can move. They can settle somewhere else. They can build a new life if they qualify and meet another country's rules. So the issue is not that they are stuck. They are not. The real question is whether they actually mean what they say. And most of the time, they clearly.
Then there's all the TikToks telling Americans things like,
fucked. I think the new American dream is to leave.
I'm 18 years old and I escaped America.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to escape America. That wall we're always debating isn't to keep you in. The New Republic just ran a story about the vulnerable minorities who want to flee America, including the author, a gay man trapped in the dystopian homophobic hellscape that is New York City. I wonder if he knows that there are 66 countries where just being gay is a crime.
This is where Maher's argument gets even stronger. Many people romanticize life in other countries without being honest about the trade-offs. They see the travel version, the Instagram version, the perfect version, clean cities, nice cafes, beautiful views, quiet neighborhoods. But that is not the whole truth. Every country has its own problems, limits, struggles, and downsides. Economic pressure, cultural differences, paperwork issues, limits on speech, limits on chances, different rules, different systems, different expectations. So when Americans treat other places as perfect alternatives, they are not being realistic. They are chasing an illusion.
Gosh, it almost seems like the world is full of suffering, intolerance, and oppression on a scale we can't imagine. But that can't be true, because if it was, we'd be protesting it. It must only happen in Israel. And if, for your exile, you do wind up in some comparatively luxurious place like Canada or Japan or the UK, not that they want you, at best, you'll be trading a bunch of stuff you hate about this country for a bunch of stuff you'll soon hate about your new home.
That is where Bill Maher's argument becomes harder to ignore, because now it is not just about celebrity reactions, emotional moments, or political showmanship. It is about something deeper. It is about the growing gap between what people say and what they actually do. If America is always described as broken, unfair, exhausting, and beyond saving, then people start asking a simple question: why stay? Why keep building careers here, shaping culture here, earning money here, and enjoying the opportunities of the same country you claim is unbearable? That is the contradiction Maher keeps pointing out. Not just anger, not just frustration, contradiction. Because real belief usually leads to action. If someone truly thinks a place has nothing left to offer, they do not stay attached to it year after year while criticizing it publicly. They leave. But that is not what happens. What happens is the statement comes first, the headlines follow, the outrage spreads, and then reality quietly steps in. The promise to leave disappears, attention shifts, and life continues as usual. And the more this cycle repeats, the less it looks like belief and the more it looks like acting. Because eventually people stop listening to words and start watching actions. And when actions never match the talk, the whole image begins to fall apart. That is why Maher's point hits hard. The louder the threat, the clearer the hypocrisy when nothing happens. It only took me a few days in Amsterdam to realize that while I admire it, I would not choose to live there.
Italy always makes the list of great expat destinations because of all those stories on CNN about how you can buy a house in a quaint Italian village for $1, except it's not a house in the way we think of one, as a structure with plumbing and electricity and a roof. When these places were built, the Leaning Tower of Pisa was still straight. Sure, you can spend $100,000 to make them livable, and I'm sure it's no problem to find reliable workmen in rural Italy who you'll then fall in love with, like in Under the Tuscan Sun, but...
In the end, that is what makes this debate so revealing. For all the outrage, all the speeches, and all the promises to leave, most of the same voices are still here, and that says more than any headline ever could. Because underneath all the talk, there is a truth they cannot avoid. For all its problems, America is still the place they would rather criticize than actually leave. And that is the contradiction Bill Maher keeps exposing. If the country were truly as hopeless as they claim, leaving would be simple. But it never happens. And when the outrage is loud but action never follows, the act starts to fall apart. That is why this argument hits so hard. In the end, their choice to stay speaks louder than their complaints. If you like this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you next time.